Another day, another podcast.
Hey, Greg.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing all right.
Did you see those snowflakes earlier?
I did. Carter was very excited. Got the
Nice.
twins very excited. Immediately, they think sledding. Like, God, we need a lot more before we're sledding. The hope is there. Hope is there.
Ugh, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a lot of snow.
It is. It is. We didn't get to do much last year, so I think we only brought the sleds out one time last year, and it was melted before we even got to the place.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. A few years ago, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I think it was during COVID because all the kids were home. We got enough snow that my kids made a giant igloo.
Oh,
like a giant igloo.
That's the goal for this year. This snowfall. Yeah. I've never made one, so I want to make one.
It was fun. Like they had friends over too, because it was a lot of work.
Really?
Yeah.
So now I'm a little nervous.
Yeah, and they did all the work because they're adults, so young adults. So I don't know. I wouldn't. I'd be careful.
Just gonna be me. I was going into this winter very positive and happy about it, but now you're saying, yeah, no, they were adults.
Just go sledding.
Well, this ties right into today's guest, because if I'm going to do it, I'm going to need my nutrition and all of my energy. Joining us today, we have Ruthann Marchetti from the Expanded Food and Nutrition Education Program at URI. So this is going to be very informative interview, just talking about the importance of the nutrition education program that goes on in our schools in Rhode Island.
Good. I'm going to pay close attention since I lost that health quiz we did yesterday, or health activity we did in the office. So I'm going to be paying close attention.
It is important, that connection. I know for myself, I know we've had nutritionists on before, and with every interview that we do, I get a little nugget of information. So I'm hoping to gain some more information on, how to turn that corner of healthy eating.
Yeah.
So, looking forward to it. A lot of questions for her.
Sure. I'm excited. I'm very excited.
All right. Yeah. So without further ado, joining us today on the Totally Preventable podcast, we have Ruthann Marchetti, the manager of the Expanded Food and Nutrition Education Program at URI. Ruthann, how are you today?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Thanks for thanks for being a part of our podcast today. I was so anxious. I'm your guest all of a sudden.
Well, there you go. I'm happy to be on. I'm happy that, I feel like you ran into me at my table at the Breakfast for School Wellness Leaders.
Yeah,
that was meant to be. I've never been on a podcast, so this is very exciting.
There we are. We're starting your world podcast tour right here on Totally Preventable. After they do this, you could watch your bookings go through the roof all of a sudden.
I would be down for that. That would be all right.
So to start off, can you educate our listeners on, a little bit about yourself?
So, well, as you know, I'm a manager here. This is kind of like a second career for me. I used to be a clinical dietitian, but a long time ago, I worked here as a grad student, and like 10 years later, they took me back as a manager. So this is my second round at EFNEP, and I'm a mom. I have 2 kids. I have a lovely team here. I feel like they're the best. It's just 3 educators. We're small but mighty. So shout out to Joy, Maruth, and Sophia, the best team ever. Love managing them. But yeah, I really like working in the field of prevention. I feel like I'm super lucky for this because I worked on the other side of the coin in inpatient care, and to work on the prevention side is truly lovely. Like you can make such a difference for folks with a little bit of education. So I feel like that's my spiel. I'll stop there.
All right.
Yeah.
Right.
Before you get too deep.
Yeah.
Boy, I've been trying to put what is it, EFNEP? EFNEP. Okay, I've been trying to put that together in my head a few times, and so I don't have to say the whole name every time. But so can you provide an overview of what you do at EFNEP?
Yeah, I know the name doesn't really stick in people's heads very well. So Some other states are actually experimenting with a little rebranding. Like I think Alabama has Alabama cooking instead of FNEP. So
Oh,
who knows? Maybe someday we'll rebrand. Who knows?
who
But
knows?
FNEP's been around forever. We're the oldest, the nation's oldest nutrition education program for low-income folks. So we've been around since 1968. And we offer free nutrition education programming to limited resource individuals throughout the state. And what I mean by that is like SNAP eligible folks or kids that are eligible for free or reduced school lunch. And we teach them basic nutrition, physical activity, food safety, food shopping on a budget, food prep skills. We teach all this through hands-on activities. We don't like a lecture style class. We like to kind of get people actively involved in the class and hands-on. And we bring in some easy to understand materials and cook a little snack together, and people get prizes. Prizes would be things like, like a spatula or little cooking tools or things like that they can take home to try to replicate their skills after the class. So in a nutshell, that's FNEP.
Wow. What is your favorite, or do you have a favorite class during that curriculum that usually the eyes just pop up?
I really like teaching whole grains. I feel like I'm obsessed with it, but I am also a carbaholic. So the class where I get to teach about carbs is great. But I feel like teaching about the processing that goes into grains and what makes whole grains great, and like the different parts of a grain and what they remove when they make it into a white grain versus a whole grain. I feel like it's something that you don't learn about, and then when you learn about it with us, it's kind of eye-opening for folks. And I think it can be simple to identify which foods are whole grains, and for kids this is it's an easy skill, but it's such a useful skill because it has like such great health benefits. So I don't know, that I'm very partial to the whole grains lesson personally.
All right.
Yeah.
What are some positive changes or outcomes that you observed since the implementation of the FNEP program in terms of students' health and academic performance and well-being?
So we do pre and post surveys. So we actually measure change pretty precisely. And I did jot down some little fun facts from our last year's surveys. Let's see, for the youth participants, we had a 61% reported an improvement in physical activity, 86% reported an improvement in diet quality. For the adults, 100% reported improvement in diet quality. Whoa. And 75% reported an improvement in their food resource management. And this would be things like food budgeting, like getting the most food for your dollar, most nutrition for your dollar. So we use all the FNEPs across the whole country use the same data entry software. It's called WebNears, and essentially we're able to pull out some really good numbers, some really good data with our pre and post surveys in a reliable fashion, so we can see real behavior change in a very measurable way, which is nice. And being around since the 1960s, clearly we have like a good track record if the federal government has decided to keep us around as one of their programs. So but outside of like the numbers, we also track what we call like success stories, and it's like the non-number side of data, cute little anecdotal stories and like happy moments that happen in class. And one of the ones we had last year, we had a gentleman in one of our teen cuisine classes, and in one of the classes we made pancakes just from scratch, and this was like a new thing for him. We make like a whole grain pancake recipe, and he got to take home like measuring cups in one class. In another class, he took home a spatula. So he had all the stuff he needed. He could make pancakes. He happened to see one of my educators just walking down the street like months later out here in Providence. And he was like, I still make those. And he really took that to heart. Like he picked up an actual skill and he kept that skill.
Mm.
So, I mean, you know, not everything's measured by the numbers, but like those success stories are really nice.
That's
Right.
awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
King cuisine too. That's
Yeah.
very kind.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, Greg's gonna like
Yeah,
it.
I like that. I like that a lot. I'm gonna keep
Did
that.
you do
No.
did you do the teen cuisine? Do you know about that, or that's a new one for you?
I do not. That is completely new to me. I've never heard of it.
Ah, it's great. It's so we use that for our grades 6 through 12. And it is a evidence-based survey out of Virginia Cooperative Extension, and they learn USDA nutrition, they learn food safety, they kind of all become like mini little chefs. We don't cook anything like crazy gourmet, but they learn some really good basic food cooking, and it's really nice to see, like, you know, kids come in and they're like, they don't even know how to scramble an egg, and they leave and they do have some of those basic skills. And I don't know, it's very well received. We've brought that all over the place. We mostly serve like the core cities, so like Providence, Pawtucket, Central Falls, Woonsocket. We've brought it all over the place within our cities, so it's gone very well.
That's great. I remember one of my kids in high school had a friend who's lived with his dad, and the dad wasn't home at dinner time, was at work or whatever, and which was fine, but the kid would have hot dogs every night.
Oh,
Someone teach that kid how to make some pancakes or scramble some eggs or something else, you know.
yeah.
Like, hot dogs are fine once in a while, but not every night, you know.
I think it can be so intimidating. So like I could see there's some intimidation factor.
Yeah, but that's nice that kids have a few, you know, can learn a couple recipes.
Yeah. Especially since I feel like you're seeing less and less of like home ec in school.
Yes,
Very
yes.
true.
I know when I went to high school, my year was the last year that got home ec, and the kids after me didn't. And that just makes me feel like super old. But in any case, I thought it was super valuable. And to know that they didn't get that it's kind of sad. There's like a missing piece of the puzzle there. So hopefully he went on to learn a little something about cooking
I hope so.
beyond.
Yeah, I hope so.
I know
Yeah.
kids learning that, buying the most for your dollar.
Right?
That's my ears perked up. Like, what? I gotta get most of my
She has
dollar?
100% adult.
That's
And
right.
I was like, oh, we gotta go.
Need to sign up.
And you know-
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to mess up the curve.
After Greg and Polly came, we were down to, you know, 80%. They screwed it
Well,
up.
you don't know that. You could have our program and we could still keep our good track record.
That's true. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't go into the adult curriculum, but we do have a really good one for adults. It's that Eating Smart, Being Active. So it's like a 9-week curriculum, similar topics to what the kids get, but more on an adult level. And we do go pretty deep into the stretching the food dollar thing, you know, getting the most food, most nutrition for your dollar, to the point where they are actually physically going through sales flyers. They're actually writing out some really basic budget. They're actually going through and learning about the importance of like making a list, shopping off a list. So we try to practice it, like real life, actual practical skills of these things.
Mhm.
And there's so many folks who still go to the grocery store with no list.
Mm.
They go to the grocery store kind of hungry, probably close to mealtime. And when you're shopping hungry, you're not 100% thinking straight.
Yeah.
And with the food prices the way they are now, it's always wild, like what the bottom line is once you get to that checkout.
Mhm.
So sometimes those little basic skills, little practical skills, that make a big difference.
I also get stuck cooking the same things. Like I don't go with a list. And so I get to the store and I'm comfortable with purchasing some the same things because I know people in my house like it and I don't have to think of all the ingredients I need. Whereas if I had thought about it a little bit ahead of time and written a list, I could be a little more creative and
Yeah.
I get
I mean, Don't beat yourself up. That's not what this is about either. But
But you are thinking twice about having to join your class.
I think you need to be in this class.
I mean, we do encourage variety. So there is some discussion on the variety thing. I mean, I see two sides to that coin because you certainly want your family to eat your meals, but maybe like dipping your toes into a little more variety would be good. Maybe not every meal for the week. Maybe you pick one and go a little wild with it. But it's interesting how like it, and some of the stuff is basic stuff. It's almost like you know it in the back of your head, but just to talk about it and actually practice it, I think makes the difference.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's been very well received. We had an adult group. I won't name the group, like where the location was, but it was at a residential program for folks that were recovering from addiction. And they loved the food budgeting stuff. It just like went extremely well. And they had great questions. They were very engaged. It was, I don't know, it's a very hot topic in our classes. So I would say that's almost like a big selling point for getting our program scheduled. People want that.
Nice.
Yeah.
How are you doing at collaborating with school administration? How is that working? Getting into
So getting into the schools is typically not problematic. I mean, all my staff has like background checks, so we're pretty like super safe and we can provide anything they need on that end. And the gym teachers and health teachers in this state advocate for us so hard. Like they learn about what we provide and they seem very enthused and they want us there to do nutrition education. And I think some of them utilize our services as like the nutrition portion of like their health education classes. So us coming in, I think provides like a much needed and a very welcome service. And, events like the one where I met Greg at that breakfast for school wellness leaders for that Rhode Island Healthy School Coalition. I met a ton of gym teachers and really was able to put my program out there and make some great connections. So a lot of our connections with schools come from them. We also make good connections with school nurses, especially when the nurses see that there's a need in the school. They're looking around, they see what their students are eating, they see the health issues that their students are encountering. And onset of chronic disease issues like earlier and earlier, unfortunately, some of which can be diet related. And they're usually very enthusiastic to bring us in and have us teach a little something about nutrition. So the school administrators have been, I feel like, very welcoming. Like they seem to really want what we bring. And we're constantly making new connections, which I think is part of that is there's a crazy turnover amongst school staff lately. Constantly making new connections because of all the turnover. So even like going back to places where we've had programming before, it's new staff very, very often.
Yeah.
But they're ready for us.
Nice.
So,
maybe we can slip in some other prevention messaging in because it's not always so easy for us to get in.
That's true.
Can we talk about nutrition and vaping?
Oh,
you bring stuff to schools like that? That's cool.
We try. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Wow. That's a tough message though.
It is.
That's a really tough one.
Yeah.
Especially like basically the age group that I would be teaching teen cuisine. That's tough.
Yep, and it's an addiction, so it's once you start it, it's not just as easy as just putting it down. So
well, it sounds like you're going to the same networking events I'm going to, as far as like that school breakfast leaders, school wellness leaders, excuse me. Like that's the same kind of places I'm networking. So
yep,
we're mixing with the right audiences. So you're in the right place at the right time. And all we can do is hope that the message sticks.
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's right.
Yep.
Can you elaborate on the nutritional education aspect of the program?
Sure. I think I'll use so for our younger youth at grades 3 through 5, we use a curriculum called CHIF, which stands for Choose Health, Food, Fun, and Fitness. It's from Cornell University. And I actually wrote down a little run through of like some of the bigger concepts that we teach as far as nutrition goes in that program. So I won't go through every single lesson because it's 6 lessons long, but I'll give you a couple of examples. So lesson 1, we teach healthy drinks, and it would be going through like what you saw before with the sugar in the drinks at that tabling event.
Mhm.
We go through sugar sweetened beverages, which is always like kind of a shock and awe thing for kids. Like they're always amazed at what is in the things that they're drinking. So we'll go through sugar sweetened beverages and then compare and contrast that with, milk or milk alternatives and water and 100% juice, and kind of go through, what things give like nutrition wise, the sugar sweetened versus these things, and learn a little bit about label reading and how to identify, what you're really looking at when you're getting a juice drink. Because a lot of things look like a juice drink on the front. You flip it over to the back, you find out it's 10% juice or something like that, and it's mostly just glorified sugar water. So, so lesson 1 is primarily focused on the healthy drinks. Lesson 2, we go through My Plate and fruits and veggies, which I think you probably have seen My Plate now. I feel like it's well known enough. So back in the day, we learned the food pyramid, which is, the classic. They don't teach that anymore. They teach My Plate now, which is that beautiful visual diagram of kind of how to make a well-portioned, well-balanced plate. And it is so much more useful than the pyramid, which taught us the food groups, but not much else. We go through My Plate, and then, each section of the plate comes with tons of really great health messages that make it very understandable for kids how to build the healthiest plate possible for themselves. And they get to build them, they get to build some example meals and like try it out. So that's lesson 2. So each of the lessons go through, similarly different USDA nutrition topics, be it, food safety, fast food, breakfast, especially for school age kids is so important. Physical activity, all sorts of good stuff. So we kind of go through each of those in a hands-on way where the kids get to be active in the lesson and try out some of the concepts for themselves. So the other curricula we use, teen cuisine, and then the adults we use at Eating Smart, Being Active. It's the same kind of topics, only geared up or geared down for the age group. Does that kind of answer?
Yes, it does.
Perfect.
Can you tell us how your program engages parents and the community, and how it might raise awareness on how important nutrition is in students' lives?
For parents, we engage with parents in a couple different ways. So we have parent-child classes that we do. It's kind of a newer thing. It's been very popular, where we'll bring in, typically for after-school groups, parents and kids come in together. We'll do like a little divide and conquer. The parents get Eating Smart, Being Active, so they get the curriculum that works for them. The kids get whatever kid curriculum is right for their age group, typically that CHIF or that Choose Health, Food, Fun, and Fitness. So they get their separate lessons, and at the end they come together and they cook together, which goes over very well. The parents love cooking with their kids in a class. I feel like it makes the kids more open to trying foods they wouldn't try otherwise, and it helps the parents to get confident serving those foods to their kids, because they're not always like, oh, my kid would love to eat that. Like typically they're doubtful of those things, but then the kids are willing to try it because they cooked it. So it's kind of a win-win. Very, very nice. So that's one way we get parents involved. Another way we get them involved is with our those Eating Smart, Being Active, just classes for parents. They don't have to be as a parent-child class. It can just be like parents coming in and having a class not with their kids. We do some of those. Outside of the actual direct education classes, we do some work with different community groups like health equity zones.
Mhm.
You do anything with the Newport Health Equity Zone? I bet you do. Yes. Okay. I'm nodding all around. I inherited the West Warwick Health Equity Zone from the previous manager. So I've been on their food access subgroup for a while now, and I love it. It's so great. It kind of serves the community on a whole different level from, the direct education, but it's bigger, programmatic changes and policy changes and things like that, and advocacy on a different level. So it's very nice. And, I'm not a social worker, but I'm very well versed in different public assistance programs and things like that are related to food access. So I love being able to kind of pitch those things in the food access subgroup and trying to connect the right resources with the right audiences to help Rhode Islanders stay fed and have access to food.
Mhm.
So I would say those are the bigger things I do for the parents.
Now, ideally, where would your classes and programs take place?
So we don't have a classroom
Okay.
or a facility. So we're kind of like a traveling roadshow. We go wherever our audience is. So we do stuff in school, we do stuff at after school programs. We do YMCA, YWCA, public libraries. We do a lot of stuff at charter schools. We do some stuff at different residential places for like addiction recovery, etc. We go to, historically, we've gone to some church groups, basically everywhere.
Do you,
Anyway,
do you need a place with a certified kitchen?
no.
Do you need a place with a kitchen?
No, nope.
No.
I need an outlet and a table and and ideally a place to wash your hands so
Yeah.
that we, good and food safe.
Yep.
We will bring the rest. We bring the food. We bring typically any kind of cooking equipment you can plug in, blenders, griddles, little like hot plate things, all sorts of stuff. And as long as you have like a place for us to set up, we're good to go.
You eliminate a lot of obstacles and barriers with that philosophy. That is.
Yeah, because in my head, I was thinking, oh, I wonder if we could get a group of parents to come here. We have a fairly big office, but I'm like, oh, we don't have any kind of kitchen set up. We have a bathroom with a sink, but that's it. And I was like, oh, that wouldn't work. But
no, that would work. That'd be fine.
Yeah.
You'll be hearing from us.
Hey, sounds good to me. That would be lovely. I love anytime I can farm us out to a new program location, I'm happy.
And if not us, we have a lot of partners. I'm going through my head that your program would be awesome for. So
yeah, perfect.
Waiting for that opposition to come up in the conversation.
Oh,
like, oh, we would do it, but we don't have a kitchen. Oh, well, you don't need a kitchen.
Yeah. No.
Now that I have on the ropes.
Yeah. No, we have everything we need. We're a traveling roadshow. We bring the prizes, we bring the food, we bring all the food safety stuff, the aprons, gloves, hairnets. Wow. We got it all. We are ready. We are ready to cook food in a food safe fashion and bring the good nutrition information to the lovely folks of Rhode Island.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Can you because we're talking about food so much, has to come up. Can you discuss the variety and quality of recipes provided in the program?
Sure.
So we actually have a website with all our recipes.
I was looking at some of them earlier.
Oh. So I can, I don't know how great it is to say the entire URL out loud, but it's web.uri.edu/community-nutrition/recipes. So it's not a super long one. But we've got, over 170 recipes on there, and they're all going to be, high in fruits and veggies, whole grains, low fat dairy, lean protein. We aim to choose foods that are low cost, so, accessible foods for our audience. And we aim to choose foods, often they're actually pantry friendly recipes as well, because we do some stuff at food pantries. So some of them you can sub in canned items, some of them you can sub in like frozen veggies, frozen fruits. So they're very, they could be very low cost depending on the ingredients, but the majority of them very, very cheap. And as far as the variety goes, we have actually been doing a really cool project to expand upon our food variety. So we have, we call it our culturally relevant recipe project. And basically the office surveyed the folks that we serve in the state to figure out what cultures we're serving. And then we took a look at our foods that we have on our recipes on our website, realized there was a massive mismatch where the cultures and the foods that we had listed didn't really jive at all. And so we've worked to improve upon that and add a lot more diverse recipes to the website and to our programming. So you'll see some really fun stuff in there like sancocho, mofonguitos, sofrito. We had a little bit of everything. So we really try to cater the foods that we offer and the foods that we bring to our education sessions to the people that we're going to educate.
Is it sometimes difficult to, when you're trying to make a new culturally diverse recipe, is it sometimes difficult trying to change the nutrition factors but give it the same taste? Stay
I mean, you can't necessarily keep everything fully authentic, but yeah, we aimed for a lot of community input. So we were bringing a lot of these recipes out to the community and saying, like, what do you think? Like, does this seem close to what it should be in terms of this dish? And so a lot of these came with a ton of input. And so is it perfectly the way someone's grandma would have made it? Probably not. But you also don't want to go to the other side of the coin and fully like healthify a recipe, because that loses authenticity and it loses a lot of what makes a dish the way it is. And I know some of the ones we make are delicious. I love our sancocho. I don't know. So they're not lacking. Like if you were to eat them, I don't think that you would be highly bothered by the taste. They're pretty tasty.
That is awesome. One thing that you mentioned that I need to help with is when you said you could substitute like frozen vegetables. I always got a little worried about that. I felt like frozen vegetables just as good as if I bought them not frozen. I never.
Nutrition wise, a frozen can be just as healthy as fresh, because if they're cutting it from the field, rinsing it off, chopping it up and freezing it, like you're not going to lose nutrient value per se by freezing it. So I wouldn't shy away from that. I mean, I encourage you to give it a shot. I think a lot of people buy their greens, their veggies, and they die a sad death in their fridge in the very back corner. So, the frozen opens up a lot of avenues for, reducing food waste, because you can use as much as you need for your recipe, and then it can live on in your freezer for quite some time. But it tends to be cheaper, ounce for ounce. If you were to compare fresh versus frozen, you could save a lot of money going with the frozen. And there's nothing wrong with it. I'm a big proponent of my frozen veggies, so don't shy away from that. Give it a shot. It's not terrible.
My wallet is happy with you right now.
Oh, good.
We have some frozen veggies in our freezer too.
Oh yeah.
As we grow a lot of food, so but
Ooh.
it is so, especially this time of year, it's so nice to have stuff in your freezer that you're not worried about. Oh gosh, you gotta cook that broccoli, it's almost
Right.
looking slimy, or those peppers are all wrinkly now. It's It's nice to have an
Yeah,
option, you know?
you're right. It does take a lot of pressure off.
Oh, so much.
It almost gives you like more flexibility in whatever you're going to be cooking because you're like, you don't have to base it on what's about to go bad in your fridge.
Right, yeah, exactly.
And that's what my house story.
Well, I was gonna say, that's kind of how, well, what's going down next? Yeah.
I'm the queen of roast and veggies. My son is 10 months old and he is very into any veggie that he can gum down. He hasn't popped any teeth out yet. So I love any kind of veggie. It's in my freezer for the most part. I can rub a little olive oil on there, stick it in the oven at 350 for like a half hour. Bam, it is babyfied. It is ready.
Awesome.
So I'm assuming you can also accommodate students with dietary needs and any other kind of restrictions they have?
Yes. So I do make it a point at the time of booking whatever class I'm going to book to ask, like, are there any known food allergies or intolerances? We don't always have a roster at the time of booking because usually I book a class with a community partner and then people to come to the class after. So we'll ask again as we're coming in, you know, like a week or so out or at the first class, just to double check. And just about anything that we have here, we can modify for allergies. You know, we can, you know, if it's a gluten thing, we can switch out for gluten-free ingredients. If it's a dairy allergy, we can switch out for dairy-free ingredients, or, you know, we can switch which recipe we're choosing altogether if need be. But given that we have such a wide range of recipes, and there's so many alternatives available these days in the grocery store, we can pretty much accommodate just about anything. And I think this is a real hot ticket issue for me because I have food sensitivities and my kids have some food allergies in it. So I take this one very personal. I think, you know, we're up to the challenge. We can typically accommodate anything. So good question though. I know that's a big concern for a lot of our community partners these days. It's very common.
I have a couple gluten-free in my house and the options have come so far in the last 4 or 5 years. It's terrific. It's great. So
yeah, you can still eat a pretty decent amount of food.
Yeah.
I don't do gluten or dairy for my own health reasons, and my kids have like some different nut allergies. So it is tricky. It's definitely tricky, but we can accommodate. And
once you get the hang of it, I think it's a lot. It seems overwhelming at first, but
yeah,
get used to it.
I know, and I'm happy to assist my educators in like setting up if they need some, you know, brainstorming on how do we modify this or whatever, you know. Before I managed this, I was a clinical dietitian. I'm a registered dietitian. I have a master's degree in nutrition. I've been doing this for way too long. So at this point, I am confident that I could modify just about any recipe, you know, to meet whatever needs we should encounter in the community.
You think you can do it on the fly? Just
maybe.
All right. All right.
I could try. And if not, I have a whole office of lovely coworkers and people bounce the idea off of, I'm sure.
You know, it'd be fun to just show up at their office with some random ingredients.
Like show.
Yeah.
Like some iron chef type of thing.
Exactly.
We have a fun combo. So I went to URI, but we have a bunch of people in here who are actually JWU grads as well. So we have between us and them, like we're fine. We've got it covered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. What metrics or benchmarks do you use to measure the success of the program, and how do you continuously improve upon its effectiveness?
So we use a database that every FNEP in the whole country uses the same database. It's called WebNears. And all of the survey data we get, we plug in there and we check on an annual basis how we're doing. So the software will generate like a feedback report, and it's almost like a little report card for us, like how did we do this year, you know? And we're looking at our core areas and seeing, you know, where do we land in terms of how did people report they did with their diet quality? How did people report that they did changing physical activity before and after, etc. So we're looking at that, and we're also looking at graduation rates, which would basically be, you know, the percentage of folks who stuck with us for the course of the whole series, and number of graduates. And so we look at a lot of different metrics. And I mean, the pandemic certainly put a damper on some of the numbers, but I think that that was the same for just about any program you would talk to. So right now we are ascending. We are on the rise.
All right. All right.
Easy to show improvement after those years in terms of the numbers and the data. So yeah, that tends to be how we take a look at our impact. Between that and like the success stories, like those little anecdotal stories I mentioned before, we kind of look at both.
Pancake guy.
That's right.
So in the schools that you have programs in, are you just integrated right into their academic program? Right into their health?
So we get plugged in a lot to health class.
Yeah.
Sometimes we'll get plugged into other classes, almost like a homeroom kind of class or whatever you would call it, like people's home base class, students' home base class. The school nurses will sometimes book us during like a class period that they get with the students, because I've been finding like some school nurses are now teaching health. Everybody has their own alternative setup at the school.
Mm-hmm.
So we do get plugged into just regular class periods during the day with students, and we seem to fit pretty seamlessly with what the school is doing academics wise. And the teachers will often reinforce whatever we teach on with like, follow-up lessons and activities in the classroom. So we'll come back the next week and they'll say, oh, after you left, when we were at lunch period, we all looked at labels and this and that and the other thing. And they, they'll follow up and reinforce with their own coursework that kind of enhances what we teach. And so it's like, it's some good full circle stuff. And it seems to fit in very well.
Nice.
I love, after I learn things like nutritional things, I love to act as if it was common knowledge to me all along.
No one has to know.
When I learned a gram of sugar was like a equal pack or a Splenda pack.
Yeah.
And I was like, I received 4 grams of sugar. I'm like, oh, that's like 4 equal packs. People look at me like, how do you know that? I'm like, wait, you didn't know that? Come on, it's common knowledge. Yeah.
It's 4 grams in a packet. So you were close. The 4, yeah, you were right there.
See, I was there. I was almost.
Yeah. So like if you're looking at a nutrition facts label and it says, for this bottle, it has like 70 something grams of sugar, you just divide that by 4 and that would tell you how many teaspoons, and each teaspoon is like a packet. So there you go. You were pretty spot on.
Look at that. I look smart to my kids that day.
There you go.
I was quite happy. Tell us, what are some of the future developments or plans that you see happening for the expanded food and nutrition education program?
Well, we got a couple things up our sleeve. I am rolling out a volunteer policy. We haven't historically taken a lot of volunteers, but I feel like volunteers are a way to engage with the community in like a different level. So if we go into a school, we're teaching a class, and let's say there's a parent who's like really into it and they want to almost serve like a teacher's aide and help out with the class, I want to be able to engage with those kind of volunteers. So we're rolling out a volunteer policy. So that's one thing. Another thing is our grad student, Louisa, who is an angel. Love her. Shout out to Louisa. She's working on enhancing our physical activity education. So we already teach it as part of the class, but there's always room for improvement, and there's always room to kind of continuously educate ourselves and get better at what we do. So we're doing a little bit more with that. And the other thing that I would throw out there would be that we're trying to increase our engagement with older youth audiences. So like that grade 6 through 12, we're already working with them, but we want to work with more of that audience. Historically, we've worked more with younger youth, but EFNEP National is pushing for more work with older youth. So that's kind of rolling out, and I've been pushing more for it. And we've had like decent success with booking more classes with older youth at grade 6 through 12 subset. But I am very happy to take any phone calls or emails from folks who want to book that kind of age group with me. Same with adult participants. We have some adult groups running, but we'd love to have more adult groups running. Our biggest audience tends to be the younger youth. Those elementary schools love us. So, so we do a lot with them, but we're looking to expand upon the other audiences as well.
Do you do any work with like young adults, like college age kids?
We don't currently. So for adults, they'd have to be like parents or caregivers. So that's a little bit of a hard sell with like the college age youth.
Yeah.
That being said, SNAP Ed, my sister grant, the other grant in the office, is allowed to work with adults who are not parents or caregivers of, school age children. They would just have to be like SNAP benefit eligible, so the income eligibility still applies.
Yeah.
But if it's an audience I can't work with, typically I can find somebody else in my office who can work with them. So, if it's someone who's interested in nutrition education, feel free to reach out to me, and I can still farm it out to another grant in my office if I can't give the services myself.
Okay.
Maybe it's a good time to plug my email.
Yes, yes. So yes, we would ask. So if someone is interested in your program, either for one of our community partners, some organization in the community, a school, how should they get in touch with you?
My email is Ruthann, RUTHANN.Marchetti, MARCHETTI @URI.edu. Or I have a lot of people who like to go old school and just call me on the phone. You can still do that. I have a desk phone. It is 401-277-5272. So either way is good.
Nice.
That is great. This has just been a great interview. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was super nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you, and I hope to hear from you. I'd love to set up some programming.
Oh,
All
definitely
right.
will. We'll
Yep.
definitely be talking to you soon.
Well, you both have a lovely day.
You too.
You as well. Take care.
All right. All right. Bye.